Today, we're diving into something that could genuinely shift how you approach, well, pretty much everything. It's the surprising idea that tiny, seemingly insignificant changes can actually lead to monumental results. So the big question we're tackling is, how do we consistently make progress on what really matters, in a world that's constantly pulling us in different directions? Our main source for this is the book Atomic Habits by James Clear. And when he says atomic, he doesn't just mean small.
No, not just tiny. It's more like
Yeah.
fundamental, the single irreducible building block of something bigger. It's about getting to the very core.
Okay, the core elements. Got it.
And our mission today really is to pull out those practical, actionable ideas from Clear's work, things you can actually start using. What's really interesting is Clear's own story. It kind of underpins his whole philosophy. And it started with this really horrific accident.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, end of his sophomore year, high school. Hit smack in the face with a baseball bat, crushed his nose, skull fractures, shattered eye sockets, even induced a coma. Just brutal.
Wow. I had no idea.
And the recovery was tough. He gets back to baseball a year later, plays his heart out, and gets cut from the varsity team, a sport he'd loved since he was 4.
Oof. That's gotta sting.
Immensely. But he didn't quit. He kept pushing. By the time he graduated college, Denison University, he wasn't just the top male athlete, he was an academic All-American. And that whole journey, that struggle, it really shapes his message. He literally says, small habits help me fulfill my potential. It comes from lived experience.
That's incredibly powerful. It really grounds the whole idea, doesn't it? Okay, so let's unpack this power of tiny improvements, because honestly, it sounds almost too simple. One of the best real-world examples is British cycling, right? This idea of the aggregation of marginal gains.
Exactly. Before Dave Brailsford took over, their record was, well, dismal.
Dismal is putting it mildly. Since 1908, only one Olympic gold. In the Tour de France. Never won it in 110 years.
Yeah, a century of, let's just say, mediocrity. It was so bad, one top bike manufacturer actually refused to sell them bikes. They thought it would hurt their brand.
No way. Seriously.
Seriously. So Brailsford comes in with this strategy. Find a 1% improvement in everything. And I mean everything.
Like, not just the bikes.
Oh, no. Bike seats, sure, but also the massage gel, the soap they use to wash their hands to cut down on colds. Literally hundreds of tiny things. And the math, this is where it gets wild. Get 1% better each day for a year and you end up 37 times better. It compounds like crazy.
37 times, whoa.
But the flip side, get 1% worse each day and you decline almost to 0. It shows how these small things, wins or setbacks, they just accumulate into something huge.
Okay, so the big takeaway here is our outcomes, they're like a lagging measure of our habits.
Precisely.
Your net worth today, that reflects your financial habits over time. Your knowledge, that's your learning habits compounding.
So it means you should worry less about your current results and way more about your current trajectory. Are you heading in the right direction?
That's the key. And what's fascinating, or maybe frustrating, is that we expect progress to be linear, right? A straight lineup.
Yeah, totally. Put in effort, get results.
But it rarely works like that. Clear calls it the plateau of latent potential. Think of an ice cube in a room at, say, 25 degrees.
Okay.
The room warms up, 26, 27, 28, 31 degrees. Nothing happens to the ice cube. It just sits there.
Right. Still frozen.
You're putting in all this energy, heating the room, but you see zero change. That's the valley of disappointment. It's where most people give up. They think, this isn't working.
I've definitely been in that valley.
We all have. But then you hit 32 degrees,
No.
and boom, the ice starts melting. The work wasn't wasted. It was just being stored, building up potential until that tipping point. That is such a great way to think about it. Your effort isn't always visible immediately. Okay, so this leads to a really interesting point Clear makes about goals. The standard advice. Set specific, actionable goals.
Right. The SMART goals framework and all that.
Yeah. But he points out a couple of problems with being too goals-focused. First, achieving a goal. It's often just a momentary change.
Explain that.
Like a messy room. Goal. Clean the room. You do it, room's clean, great. But if you haven't changed the underlying habits, the sloppiness, it'll just get messy again.
Okay. You treated the symptom, not the cause.
Exactly. And the second issue, maybe even more profound, is that goals can restrict your happiness.
How so?
Well, the mindset becomes, once I achieve X, then I'll be happy. So you're always postponing happiness until the next milestone. It sets up this win-lose scenario. Either you hit the goal and succeed, or you miss it and you're a failure.
Right, that constant chasing.
Yeah.
So what's the alternative then?
He argues for systems-first mentality.
Okay, systems over goals.
Yeah. A goal is the result you want. A system is the process that leads to those results. Like a coach wants to win the championship, that's the goal.
Mm,
But their system is how they recruit, practice, manage staff, day in, day out.
got it. Focus on the process.
And the beauty is, if you fall in love with the process, you don't have to wait for the result to feel good. You can feel successful anytime your system is running. Today. Now.
That makes a lot of sense. Less pressure on the outcome, more focus on the doing.
Exactly. Which brings us to maybe the deepest layer of this. It's not just about what you do or even the systems you build. Clear says the most effective way to change habits is to focus on who you wish to become. Identity.
Identity change. Okay, now we're getting deep.
Right.
It's one thing to say, I'm the type of person who wants this, like I want to be healthy. It's totally different to say, I am a healthy person.
Ah, okay. The being versus the wanting.
Precisely. And every action you take, it's like casting a vote for the type of person you want to be. Eat a healthy meal. That's a vote for, I'm a healthy person. Skip a workout. That's a vote for something else.
So the more votes you cast.
The more evidence you build for that identity, and the more pride you have in that identity, say, being a writer, the more motivated you are to maintain the habits of a writer, like writing every day. True behavior change is identity change.
Okay, that's a powerful frame. So if we want to build these identities, how do the actual habits work? You mentioned a four-step loop.
Yes, the backbone of every habit. Cue, craving, response, reward.
Cue, craving, response, reward. Got it.
First, the cue. That's the trigger, the little bit of info that predicts a reward.
Yeah.
Could be anything in the notification sound, seeing your running shoes, the sell of coffee.
Okay, the trigger.
Then the craving. This isn't the habit itself, it's the motivation, the desire for that change in state the reward brings.
Yeah.
You don't crave smoking, you crave the feeling of relief it provides.
Right, the underlying desire.
Third is the response. That's the actual habit you perform, the action or thought. And whether you do it depends on motivation, but also, crucially, on friction. How easy is it?
Makes sense. If it's too hard, you won't do it.
Exactly. And finally, the reward. That's the payoff. It satisfies the craving, and really importantly, it teaches your brain, hey, this action, it worked. Remember it for next time.
And these four steps just loop endlessly.
Constantly. It's an endless feedback loop running in the background, scanning, predicting, trying things out, learning, mostly unconsciously.
Unconsciously. That's kind of scary.
Well, it's efficient. The conscious mind can only handle so much, so the brain cleverly offloads routine tasks to the non-conscious mind to run automatically, frees up bandwidth.
Okay, efficiency's good.
But it can be dangerous. You don't even need to be aware of the cue for a habit to start.
Yeah.
Clear tells this story about a former kindergarten teacher. Years after leaving the job, she'd still find herself asking adults if they'd wash their hands after using the restroom.
Uh-huh, really. That's ingrained.
Totally. It shows that unless someone points it out, or you make an effort to notice, you can just fall into old patterns without even realizing it.
Okay, so if it's unconscious, what can you actually do? This must be where the laws of behavior change come in. First one is
Make it obvious.
make it obvious.
Huh.
Right, so step one is just noticing. Awareness.
Exactly. You can't change what you're not aware of. Clear suggests something called a habits scorecard. Literally just list your daily habits and mark them as positive, negative, or neutral. Just the act of writing them down brings them into conscious awareness.
That sounds simple, but probably really revealing.
It can be. And to boost that awareness, there's this technique from the Japanese railway called pointing and calling.
Pointing and calling, what's that?
Operators physically point at signals, speedometers, whatever, and call out the status. Signal is green. It forces a non-conscious check into a conscious action.
Huh. How would you use that personally?
You could say aloud what you're about to do and what the outcome will be, like reaching for social media. Say, I'm about to open Instagram, but I don't need to. Doing this will waste time and make me feel distracted.
Ooh, saying it out loud makes it more real somehow.
It does. It interrupts the automatic pilot.
Okay, so first, be aware. Then you want to create obvious cues for the good habits, right?
Precisely. And a super effective way is using implementation intentions. It's a simple formula. I will behavior at time and location.
Okay, specific plan. Like, I will meditate for 1 minute at 7 a.m. in my kitchen.
Exactly that specific. It removes the ambiguity. And Claire also mentions that fresh starts, first day of the week, month, new job, can give you a little motivational boost.
Makes sense. Building on that, there's habit stacking.
Yeah, another clever one. The formula is after current habit, I will new habit.
Piggybacking on something you already do.
Right. You leverage an existing routine. So, after I pour my morning coffee current habit, I will meditate for 1 minute new habit. It links the new habit to something already established. It kind of reminds me of the Diderot effect.
Diderot effect.
Yeah, where buying one new thing, like a fancy robe, suddenly makes you feel like you need new furniture to match. One behavior triggers a cascade. Habit stacking uses that same principle for good.
Okay, interesting. Now let's talk environment. You mentioned cues. Environment design seems huge here.
Oh, massive. We are incredibly visual creatures.
Yeah.
What we see shapes what we do, often unconsciously.
Like supermarkets putting pricey brands at eye level.
Exactly. Or end caps on aisles.
Uh-huh.
Apparently 45% of Coke sales come from those. It's not willpower, it's visibility. The more obvious something is, the more likely you are to grab it.
So redesign your own space to make good choices obvious.
Totally. Want to take vitamins? Put the bottle right next to the coffee maker. Want to practice guitar? Don't hide it in the closet. Leave it on a stand in the living room. Want to write thank you notes? Keep stationery visible on your desk.
The fly in the urinal at Schiphol Airport is the classic example, right?
It's perfect. Tiny visual cue, improves aim, cuts cleaning costs by 8%. It's about being the architect of your world, not just a passive consumer in it. Designed for your desired actions.
Digging deeper on environment, the context is the cue. What does that mean?
It means habits aren't just tied to one trigger, but the whole surrounding environment. The study with insomniacs is fascinating.
Tell me about that.
They were told, only get into bed when you're tired. If you can't sleep, get up and go to another room. Don't read or watch TV in bed. Over time, they reassociated the context of the bedroom solely with sleep, and they slept better.
So the entire room became the cue for sleep.
Exactly. Which is why it's often easier to change habits in a new environment. You escape the old triggers.
Like going on vacation and suddenly finding it easy to break a bad habit.
Precisely. If a new place isn't an option, then try to redefine your current space. One space, one use is the mantra. Offices for work, kitchen for cooking, bedroom for sleeping. Try not to blur the lines.
The Vietnam War heroin study really drives this home too, doesn't it?
Absolutely. Soldiers heavily addicted in the high-Q environment of Vietnam often quit easily back home, simply because all the triggers were gone. Context is king.
Okay, so for good habits, make it obvious. For bad habits, the inversion is
Make it invisible.
simple. Just remove the cue.
Pretty much.
Yeah.
Clero argues that disciplined people aren't necessarily willpower heroes. They're just better at structuring their lives so they don't need heroic willpower. They remove the temptations.
So practically, phone distracting you, put it in another room, triggered by social media, unfollow those accounts, TV in the bedroom keeping you up, move it out.
Exactly. Unplug the game console and put it away after use. It's about increasing the friction for the bad habit by removing the cue, trying to resist temptation constantly. That's exhausting and usually fails long term. Positive habits rarely survive in a negative environment.
All right, that's law 1. Makes sense. Moving to law 2, make it attractive. This gets into dopamine, right?
Oh yeah, the dopamine-driven feedback loop.
Yeah.
And the key insight is dopamine isn't just released when you get pleasure, but also when you anticipate it.
Ah, the wanting versus the liking.
Exactly. That wanting system is powerful. Often, the anticipation feels even better than actually getting the thing.
Yeah.
Think about planning a vacation. Sometimes that's half the fun.
Totally. So how does this relate to habits?
Well, our brains are wired to be attracted to certain things, and modern life creates what Clear calls supernormal stimuli. These are exaggerated versions of things we're naturally drawn to,
Exaggerated how?
like Tinbergen's gull chicks preferring a fake beak with huge red dots over their own mothers, or geese trying to incubate giant light bulbs instead of their own eggs. Bigger seems better, instinctively.
Okay, weird animal examples. But how does that apply to us?
Think about the food industry creating the bliss point, that perfect, hyper-palatable combo of salt, sugar, fat, crunch, creaminess.
It's like pizza.
Exactly.
Mm.
Or social media likes giving instant validation, overly perfected images and advertising, online porn. They're all hitting our primal reward circuits in exaggerated ways. Our basic instincts get hijacked.
Wow. Okay, so our environment is kind of engineered to make unhealthy things super attractive.
Yeah.
So how do we make the good habits attractive?
One great strategy is temptation bundling.
Right. You mentioned the Netflix bike guy.
Ronan Byrne, yeah. He paired something he needed to do, exercise, with something he wanted to do, watch Netflix. You link an action you want to do with an action you need to do.
So the formula is like, after my current habit, I do the habit I need. Then after the habit I need, I get to do the habit I want.
You got it. So after I finish this work report need, I will check my favorite sports scores want. Or after I do 10 minutes of tidying need, I will listen to my podcast want. Leverage that desire for the reward.
It makes sense. What else makes habits attractive? Social norms.
It's hugely important. We're herd animals,
Yeah.
fundamentally. We want to fit in, be accepted, earn respect. So we naturally imitate three groups.
Okay, who are they?
First, the close, family and friends. Their habits rub off on us, good and bad. Think about how accents or eating habits spread in households.
Yeah, definitely. Second.
The many, the tribe, the majority. We look to see what everyone else is doing. There's safety and validation in numbers. Remember that chimp study? Avoiding a better technique just to fit in.
Crazy. And the third group.
The powerful, people with status and prestige. We emulate those we admire or see as successful. Their habits seem like shortcuts to achieving similar results.
So the takeaway is if changing your habits means fitting in with a group you admire, it becomes way more attractive.
Exactly. Conversely, if it means challenging the tribe, it feels risky and unattractive. So join cultures where your desired behavior is the normal behavior.
Okay, so the inversion for bad habits, law 2 is make it attractive. So the inversion is make it unattractive.
Precisely. And a key way to do this is by reframing your perspective. Alan Carr's easy way to stop smoking is a prime example.
How does that work? It's not just listing health risks, is it?
No, it systematically reframes the benefits smokers think they get. Like, smoking doesn't relieve stress, it causes it. Or, you think you enjoy it, but it actually dulls your senses. It changes the smoker's interpretation of the habit.
Ah, so it attacks the craving by changing the prediction.
Exactly. Because our behavior depends so much on how we interpret things. Same cigarette. One person craves it, another is repulsed. It's the prediction, the anticipated feeling that drives the habit. Change the prediction, make it seem unattractive, and the craving diminishes.
Fascinating. Okay, law 3, make it easy. This seems intuitive, but how does it play out?
It builds on the law of least effort. We are fundamentally wired to conserve energy. We naturally drift towards the easiest option.
Like water flowing downhill.
Pretty much. Diamond's theory about agriculture spreading faster east-west in Eurasia than north-south in the Americas.
Sure.
Similar climates made it easier. Less energy required, faster adoption.
So the less energy a habit needs, the more likely it is to happen.
Bingo. It sounds almost too obvious, but reducing friction is key. Compare doing 100 push-ups versus just one. One is almost frictionless to start.
And this links back to environment design again, right? Making the action itself easier.
Yes, reducing the steps, the effort involved. Think about all the services designed around removing friction. Meal delivery, ride-sharing, online shopping, even texting instead of calling. It's addition by subtraction.
Like those Japanese manufacturers streamlining workflows.
Exactly. Remove wasted motion, remove decision points, make the path smoother.
And there's priming the environment for future use. That sounds proactive.
It is. It's about setting up your future self for success. Like Oswald Knuckles resetting the room, tidying up now to make the next action easier later.
So, practical examples. Lay out workout clothes the night before.
Yep. Put the pan on the stove for breakfast. Pre-chop veggies for the week. Get your work bag ready by the door. Anything that removes a future point of friction.
Clear also mentions decisive moments. What are those?
These are the small choices that have an outsized impact on the next chunk of your time. Like the decision to walk into the kitchen. Do you grab fruit or cookies? The decision to sit on the couch after work. Do you turn on the TV or put on running shoes?
Ah, the forks in the road throughout the day.
Exactly. And habits are often the entry point to these moments. The habit isn't the whole workout. It's putting on your running shoes. Making that first step easy is crucial.
Which leads to the 2-minute rule.
My favorite. When starting a new habit, make it take less than 2 minutes.
Seriously, just 2 minutes.
Yep. Read every day becomes read one page. Do yoga becomes take out my yoga mat. Run 3 miles becomes put on my running shoes.
That doesn't achieve much.
It's not about achieving the full thing initially. It's about mastering the art of showing up. Making the start of the ritual so easy, so automatic, it's almost impossible not to do it. Make it easy to start, and the rest often follows. You can scale up later.
Okay, that makes sense. Master the start. So the inversion. Make it difficult. How do you increase friction for bad habits?
Commitment devices. These are choices you make in the present to lock in better behavior in the future.
Like Victor Hugo locking away his clothes. That's extreme.
Yeah. Maybe don't do that. But the principle works. Modern examples. Setting an internet timer to shut off at 10 p.m. Asking the waiter to box half your meal up front. Using software to block distracting websites during work hours.
So you're using your good self now to constrain your tempted self later.
Exactly. You leverage good intentions before temptation strikes. Automation is powerful here, too. Clear had his assistant reset his social media passwords weekly, made logging in just enough hassle that he did it way less often.
Clever. Okay, last law. Law 4. Make it satisfying.
And the cardinal rule here is, what is immediately rewarded is repeated. What is immediately punished is avoided.
Our brains love instant gratification.
Totally. And that's the challenge. Good habits often have delayed rewards, health, wealth, but immediate costs, effort. Bad habits have immediate rewards, pleasure, distraction, but delayed costs, hangovers, debt.
Bastiat's quote about the sweet first fruit.
The more bitter are its later fruits. Exactly. We're wired for the now.
So how do you make a good habit immediately satisfying if the real payoff is far away?
You need to inject some immediate reinforcement. Remember the Safeguard soap in Karachi?
Yeah, the nice-smelling, foamy soap made hand-washing enjoyable.
Right. It added a little bit of immediate sensory pleasure to a beneficial habit. That made people want to do it. It wasn't just about knowing it was healthy.
So find ways to add a little pleasure.
Or a feeling of progress.
Yeah.
Like the savings account idea. Label an account Dream Vacation. Every time you skip buying something frivolous, transfer that exact amount into the account. You get an immediate hit of satisfaction seeing that balance grow.
The couple saving for Europe by banking $50 every time they skipped eating out.
Perfect example. The key is the reward should reinforce your desired identity. Seeing the trip to Europe fund grow reinforces I am the type of person who saves for experiences.
Habit tracking fits here too, right? Just marking an X on the calendar.
Absolutely. It's simple but powerful. It provides a visual cue. It's motivating to see the chain grow, and just making the mark provides instant satisfaction, visual proof you're casting those votes for your identity.
What about when you inevitably miss a day? Break the chain.
The crucial never miss twice rule. Missing once is an accident. Missing twice is the start of a new negative habit. The key isn't perfection. It's how quickly you get back on track.
Just don't beat yourself up. Just make sure you do it tomorrow.
Exactly. Even if it's just for 2 minutes, show up. Reaffirm the identity. The bounce back is more important than the slip up.
Okay. Inversion. Make it unsatisfying. How do you add immediate consequences to bad habits?
An accountability partner or a habit contract could be really effective. You raise the stakes.
Like Roger Fisher's wild idea about the nuclear codes near someone's heart?
Haha. Yeah, the ultimate immediate consequence makes the decision visceral.
Thankfully, we don't need to go that far.
No. Practical examples. Agreeing to pay a friend $20 if you skip a workout. Having a contract with financial or social penalties like Brian Harris paying his trainer and having to dress up formally if he failed to track his food. Knowing someone is watching or that there's an immediate cost is a powerful motivator.
Okay, those 4 laws seem like a really solid framework. What about getting to, like, elite levels?
Yeah.
Beyond just building basic habits?
Yeah, Clear gets into advanced tactics. One big question is talent. Are some people just born better?
The nature versus nurture thing.
Right. His take is, genes don't determine your destiny, but they do determine your areas of opportunity. Think Phelps the swimmer versus El Garouge the runner, totally different body types, perfectly suited for their sports. Genes dealt them a good hand for that specific game.
So genetics influences your potential in certain areas.
Yeah, and maybe even your personality traits, the big 5, like openness, conscientiousness, etc. The key is to align your ambition with your natural abilities.
Yeah.
Surprisingly, he says, work hard on the things that come easy to you. Lean into your strengths.
Find your natural fit. He mentions an explore-exploit trade-off.
Right. Try lots of things initially. Explore, figure out where you have an edge or what you enjoy most, and then double down on that. Exploit.
And if you can't find a game where you have an edge,
Create your own. Combine your unique skills, like Clear designing his own biomechanics major in college by mixing physics, bio, chem, anatomy. It suited him perfectly and reduced direct competition. Play a game only you can play.
that's cool. What about staying motivated long-term?
The Goldilocks rule. We're most motivated when tasks are right on the edge of our abilities. Not too hard, not too easy, but just right. Challenging enough to be interesting, but not so hard you give up.
Like Steve Martin gradually adding slightly harder jokes to his routine.
Perfect example. Just enough success to stay motivated, just enough challenge to keep improving. Find that sweet spot.
But even then, what's the biggest enemy long-term?
According to Clear, boredom.
Boredom.
Yep, that elite coach quote. At some point, it comes down to who can handle the boredom of training every day. Anyone can be motivated when it's new and exciting. The difference between professionals and amateurs. Pros stick to the schedule even when they don't feel like it. Amateurs let life get in the way when the novelty wears off. You have to fall in love with the process, even the boring parts.
That's a tough truth. Consistency over intensity, even when it's dull.
It really is.
Mhm.
And related to that, habits are efficient, but they can lead to autopilot, maybe even getting slightly worse over time if you're not careful.
So you need to keep checking in.
Exactly. Reflection and review are crucial for mastery. You need systems for deliberate practice and analysis.
Like the Lakers tracking specific excellence stats or Chris Rock testing jokes relentlessly.
Yeah, or just keeping a decision journal. Whatever works for you to consciously review your performance and identify areas for improvement. Don't let habits lead to mindless repetition. Use them as a base for continuous refinement.
One last thing. What about when your core identity shifts? Like an athlete retiring, that identity loss.
That can be really tough. When the role that defined you disappears. The solution: redefine your identity more broadly. Make it more flexible.
How so?
Instead of "I am an athlete," maybe it's "I am the type of person who is mentally tough and loves a physical challenge." That identity can survive retirement. Instead of "I am the CEO," maybe "I am the type of person who builds and creates things." Keep the essence, but detach it from a specific temporary role. Makes you more resilient.
That's really valuable advice. Wow. Okay, we've covered a ton. So pulling it all together, it seems profound change really does start small with these atomic habits. Tiny, consistent efforts that compound, driven by shifting your identity, supported by smart systems, and engineered using the four laws. Make it obvious, attractive, easy, and satisfying.
You nailed it. That's the core framework. And maybe a final thought to leave everyone with, something Clear touches on. This idea of satisfaction, liking,
So
wanting.
liking minus wanting. Okay.
Yeah. If your wanting constantly outpaces your liking, if you're always chasing the next thing without appreciating or enjoying the process of what you have, you'll likely always feel unsatisfied, always restless.
That's provocative.
So the challenge for you listening is, how can you maybe align your desires, your wanting, with the daily actions, the systems that actually bring long-term satisfaction and align with who you want to be? And maybe even more simply, what's one tiny, ridiculously small action you can take today that casts a vote for the person you truly wish to become?